All right, here they come. Look at all those beautiful rectangles from all over the world. It's so great to have you all here. I am Dr. Ted Barnett, President and founder of Rochester Lifestyle Medicine Institute, and it's great to have you here for this month's Lifestyle Medicine Grand Rounds with our presenter, Dr. Kerry Graff, talking about using a fasting mimicking diet for cancer prevention. When is it or is it not appropriate? We'd love it if you would partner with Rochester Lifestyle Medicine Institute. Together, we can work to change the medical paradigm. We can help empower your patients. We have Zoom-based facilitated programs that build motivation and competence in a socially supportive, interactive environment. And several of our programs are ACLM certified, including our very own 15-day whole food plant-based jumpstart. If you'd like to refer a patient, check our website for online referral forms. You'll notice that those first two on there, on the Jumpstart program and the Lift project, are both worth 10 CMEs. If you're a medical professional, you can take the program alongside our regular participants and receive credit in the process. Also, we do run health coaching, in group and individual coaching sessions, so please check out our website for that as well. Our Jumpstart Live is the one we've been running since 2018. That consists of 6 Zoom sessions for a total of 10 hours of in-person interaction, but we also have Jumpstart On Demand, which is available whenever people want, because sometimes they just can't make it to our regular program. So check the website out for that as well. Our RLMI community is where we have our events and programs hosted, and please check that out if you join. It's only $5 a month, and there's a 30-day free trial, which helps to keep it, and the charge helps to keep it ad-free, troll-free, and respectful. Also, please respect the privacy of any patient you might recognize. Our case presenter tonight, again, the person doing the heavy lifting, is Dr. Kerry Graff, who's board certified in both family and lifestyle medicine. She is a graduate of the University of Pittsburgh School of Medicine and has practiced in primary care settings for over 27 years in Western New York. In 2017, she was one of the first 204 physicians to become board certified in lifestyle medicine. Dr. Graff spent the first half of her career treating patients in the way she was initially trained, with pills and procedures, and is devoting the second half of her career to helping patients reverse chronic disease with lifestyle changes instead. She currently sees patients in New York via telehealth appointments through lifestyle telemedicine. Dr. Graff is also the case coordinator and medical director for RLMI. And Dr. Vanita Rahman is our guest panelist tonight. We're so excited to have her as well. She's board certified in internal medicine and lifestyle medicine, and she's a certified nutritionist and personal trainer. A clinical instructor at George Washington University and physician at the Barnard Medical Center, Dr. Rahman is a leading expert in using plant-based nutrition to prevent and reverse chronic diseases. She is the author of several books, including Stronger with Plants, and spent over 15 years at Kaiser Permanente, where she pioneered successful plant-based weight loss programs. Dr. Rahman is dedicated to a whole person approach to health, focusing on the synergy of diet, exercise, and stress management. And Dr. Robert Brakey, these are our two regular panelists. Dr. Robert Brakey is board certified in family medicine, and you can read his little bio right there. And Dr. Melissa Sunderman has practiced for over 25 years and is also board certified in internal medicine and lifestyle medicine. And we love it when Dr. Brakey and Dr. Sunderman are here because they keep us on track and know so much. It's just amazing. So please, as you know, we are a nonprofit. You can aim your phone at that if you'd like to make a donation. Many people have already made generous donations tonight, and we thank you for that. And now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Graff, who will share her screen. Thank you, Dr. Graff, and welcome, panelists.
So this is a patient that came to me because she was planning to do a fasting mimicking diet for cancer prevention. And it kind of just developed from there. So patient, we're going to call her Linda, 49 years old, white female, presented via telehealth to establish care in the L-Nutra health metabolic program. I work for Lifestyle Telemedicine, and L-Nutra contracts with us to provide the medical support for their patients. And she was signing up for the L-Nutra metabolic program due to concern about her risk for cancer, due to a strong family history and a recent breast cancer scare. She also said her other issues for why she was wanting to do the program were weight control, optimizing her diet habits, and having a high total and LDL cholesterol. So it wasn't just about the cancer prevention. Some other things were also at play there. So a couple of months prior to me seeing her for the first time, she noticed bilateral breast tenderness and lumpiness. And that's what kind of started her down this path of really being worried about her breast cancer risk. She had a mammogram at that time, which showed dense breasts, but no particular area of concern. There was nothing that was significantly worrisome on the mammogram. She also had an ultrasound, and they were. So this is by the patient's report. I never got the records from her on this, but she said that they were planning to do an ultrasound guided breast biopsy, and that it was attempted, but they were unable to get a biopsy, and she had a lot of discomfort with the procedure. And basically, they just called it off and didn't get any tissue samples. And then the plan from the person who was doing her breast management was to reimage the breast in 6 months instead of trying to repeat a breast biopsy. So I know this is very unsatisfactory to Dr. Veggie, who is like, wait, this is kind of a crazy plan, but that's what happened, and I don't have more details on that. So we're just going to go with that as it is. So that prompted our patient Linda to she was really unhappy about having to just sit on this for 6 months and not do anything because she was really worried. So she actually went out to True North in California in November of 2025 and did a 5-day water-only fast. So True North is one of the only places in the United States to do water-only fasting. I think it's the only one that is in person, and it's kind of a big deal to go out there. In addition to doing the water-only fasting for 5 days, you have to do half the amount of time that you water fasted in kind of a reintroducing food. So she was there for a week total with this procedure. And she told me at her first appointment with me that all of her breast tenderness and lumpiness resolved with that water fasting in only those 5 days. And as part of that water-only fasting, she was avoiding any caffeine. So she continued to avoid caffeine afterwards, the caffeinated tea and coffee. But her breast pain and lumpiness returned somewhat. It was more mild than it had been, but it returned somewhat. And that made her look into what other options she had because she couldn't go out to California to do repetitive water fasting all the time to get rid of this breast problem that she had going on. She had already been eating whole food plant-based for 3 years. She was completely vegan and she was very strict about that part of it. Sometimes there was more processed food in it than completely whole food, but she was still pretty much 80% whole food and completely plant-based for the last 3 years. She knows that she previously did several cycles of Prolon, which is a similar fasting mimicking diet. And you'll see FMD in the slides delineating that's a fasting mimicking diet. That is very similar to the L-Nutra fasting mimicking diet. It's the same company and it's the same, it's very, very similar. It's slightly different in calories. It's slightly different in components, but it's very similar. And she had tolerated those cycles of Prolon well. They're both 5-day fasting mimicking diets. And we're going to talk a little bit more about what that is. Not because I want to advertise it, but because you don't really kind of understand what's going on with this patient unless you know what this is. So I took this directly from their website. The Fasting Mimicking Diet, L-Nutra's Fasting Mimicking Diet is a 5-day nutrition program. It's scientifically formulated to mimic the effects of a prolonged water fast while still allowing some nourishment. And that supports the benefits of fasting without the challenges and risks that come from water-only fasts. And the recommendation at this time is to not water-only fast for more than 24 hours without being medically monitored. And that's the issue with why a fasting mimicking diet can be helpful, so you don't have to do a retreat at a place like True North that offers completely water-only fasting. And the benefits of fasting, there are multiple benefits of fasting. But it's really the primary thing that this patient was really interested in was this part of fasting that's called autophagy. Basically, when you fast, your body senses that you're not taking in nutrients. And normal cells shut down their non-essential processes when that happens, allowing them to be relatively protected. But also it enhances as time goes on and you stay in that fasting mode, your immune system enhances to be able to detect cells that are not functioning at their best and basically scavenges those not so great functioning cells for parts. And that goes on for as long as you're doing the fasting phase. And then as you refeed, you use the parts that you have scavenged for to rebuild better functioning cells. So you can see kind of the potential benefits to the body of doing this, and in past, in the 200,000 years that humans have been around, we haven't had voluntary fasting for the most part. It's been involuntary fasting where you would have a period where there was no food available. And this was a potent built-in mechanism to help you to optimize how your body is functioning at times when there isn't food around. But it has benefits even when there is food around if you're able to tap into that. And as you'll see in here on this chart, autophagy starts when you get close to 18 hours, 20 hours, you start seeing it happening. But at about a day and a half in, you see a significant increase, and you get this huge surge by day 3. So autophagy is going to peak around day 3. So these fasting mimicking diets are all 5 days. And so you've got, 3 full days of really high level autophagy kind of happening before you start the refeeding process. So they're used in multiple different circumstances, but a lot of times they're used for diabetes, for helping to enhance pancreatic beta cell functioning. That's where a lot of the data has been obtained. So it gives you a little bit of idea about fasting mimicking diets. I'm just going to give you an idea what the kit looks like if you order it. Basically, your food's going to look like this. And that doesn't look too bad until you realize that's your entire day's food. And that's day 1 where you get an extra 200 calories from the rest of the days. So it ain't much. And the fasting mimicking diet health programs, L-Nutra's health programs, in addition to the packaged food that they provide for you, there's also professional support. There's a bunch of education. There's dietary principles. They work with you on what to eat in between fasting, and they use some AI technology and apps to kind of help with tracking everything. So L-Nutra's health programs, they have 2 specific programs that they run that kind of have all of those components. The one is diabetes remission. It's 12 months long, and it involves 6 fasting mimicking diet cycles. It is a physician-led program because many of these patients need to have medications adjusted. And then there's registered dietitian coaching biweekly. And there's also a metabolic health program, which is what our patients signed up for. It's 6 months and it's 4 cycles of fasting mimicking diets. It is primarily dietitian-led. And physicians are only involved in New York, New Jersey, and New Hampshire because of laws that require doctors to be involved with the ordering of labs. And because this patient happened to live in New York, it's actually why I saw her. Otherwise, she would have gone into the program without having a physician kind of looking at things. So it's a bit by chance that I ended up seeing her. So Linda did not have diabetes or pre-diabetes, so she signed up for the metabolic health program, and she figures that she had high cholesterol that would make her eligible. Even though her real concern was about trying to reduce risk for cancer. If you look at what the metabolic program is specifically designed for, it's for lowering cholesterol, managing hypertension, reducing inflammation, and improving metabolism. And it doesn't say anything about cancer treatment or prevention. The fasting mimicking diet, I should have given credit. This was all developed by Dr. Walter Longo. And he's the one who really kind of put all of this together. He makes no money from any of this. He puts all of the money back into studies looking at this. Okay, so there's a bunch of exclusion criteria for doing an L-Nutra program. Basically, if you're generally unstable, not a candidate. If you have any end-stage disease, not a candidate. Unsuitable to go through a 5-day low-calorie nutrition program, not a candidate. Or if your body mass index is below 20, if you've got class 3 or above congestive heart failure. This patient did not have that, but I had one patient in the past who had that. And I'm like, no, you're not eligible. She didn't know what class she had, but she contacted her cardiologist, and indeed, she was a class 3. If you have a history of cardiac arrhythmias, you can't do this. A recent myocardial infarction in the last 6 months, or a history of syncope with calorie restriction, a low creatinine clearance of less than 30 milliliters per minute, any major psychiatric disorder, if you're currently pregnant or nursing or planning to become pregnant during the program, or if you have an allergy to nuts, celery, oats, or sesame because they are in the foods in the package. So those are the exclusion criteria. So let's talk about Linda, specifically past medical history. She says she has occasional headaches. The breast issues were, as we talked about already, and she denied any other medical problems. Medications included vitamin D, but she wasn't sure what dose she was taking, and she wasn't consistent with taking it anyway. Despite being on a whole food plant-based diet for 3 years, she was not taking B12, which was a bit of a concern to me. Family history: father died from gallbladder cancer at age 61. Her mother is BRCA positive. She was diagnosed with breast cancer and then had genetic testing done. And then when they prophylactically removed her ovaries because of her BRCA positive status, they found that she actually had low-grade ovarian localized cancer as well. She currently was doing, mom was currently doing well, and our patient had BRCA testing and it was negative. Social history: she's single. She's never been married, but she does have an 8-year-old daughter from a previous relationship. Limited friends network, spends most of her time working and caring for her daughter who has autism. Physically, this is a telehealth appointment, so you're not getting a lot, right? She was healthy appearing, neat, well-groomed, pleasant, cooperative, wasn't short of breath. Her affect seemed normal. She had good eye contact, seemed appropriate. If you've been to any of the other presentations I've done for Grand Lifestyle Medicine Grand Rounds, I always think in terms of the 6 pillars. So after you get the normal history, I switch into lifestyle medicine mode and go through each of the pillars. So fingers, never smoked any tobacco, alcohol, none currently. She's never drank much, but nothing at all in many months. She said that she previously was a social drinker. I always ask what that means because I've had people say they were social drinkers, and what that means is they go out 4 nights a week and they drink, 6 to 10 every time they go out. So social drinkers, you definitely need to kind of quantify, but she did not. She drank maybe 6 drinks an entire year, usually around the holidays. Drugs, nothing past or present. Forks, so this is a diet. She eats a whole food plant-based diet. She only eats 1 or 2 meals a day. She did not complete her 3-day diet review that we requested actually multiple times. So I didn't have that to review at her appointment. Next pillar is feet or physical activity. She says she walks 30 minutes 3 times a week when the weather is decent. I started seeing her in November. So basically she wasn't really doing much of anything because the weather was never decent. So not very active at all. She works at home. She sits at a desk all day, most days. Sleep, she's doing great with this one. She sleeps 8 hours every night. She feels well rested during the day. She says sleep is her superpower. Stress, she works as a lawyer from home. She's this mostly single parent of an 8-year-old daughter who has autism. Daughter does go to her dad's every other weekend, so she gets a break, 2 out of 14 days. Patient denied feeling anxious or significantly stressed at the time that I saw her, despite her whole breast cancer thing that was going on and being, I don't know how a lawyer working from home as a single parent for a child with autism wouldn't be stressed, but she denied feeling significantly stressed. She says she manages any stress that she does have with sleeping, walking, which she wasn't actually doing, keeping busy, and listening to podcasts like Eckhart Tolle is kind of what her go-to. And a love pillar, basically, what does she love enough in life that she's willing to make changes for? What are her relationships? It's really all about her daughter. Okay, and then there's a set of labs that gets done with the L-Nutra metabolic program, and these are the labs that that are part of that program. And I made it easy for you by putting the things that were abnormal in red. So her total cholesterol was a little high at 217. Normals are all in parentheses afterwards. Her HDL was listed as being normal at 99, and normal is listed as greater than 50, but 99 is really excellent. So she's got really high HDL. LDL a little high at 104. Triglycerides normal at 47. Cholesterol HDL ratio of only 2.2. So that looks good. A non-HDL of 118. Fasting glucose was normal. BUN and creatinine were both in the normal range, but if you notice that the BUN is quite high compared to the creatinine, so it ends up putting the BUN creatinine ratio at 33, with the normal being 10 to 20. And for those of you who are not aware, or as a reminder, well hydrated, the ratio would be about 10. Getting dehydrated would be a ratio about 20. So 33 is significantly dehydrated. You know, she was fasting for these labs, but, you know, that's more than you'd normally see for that. Electrolytes were all okay, as was the total bilirubin and the alk phos, but her AST was 41, with the normal cutoff being 35, and her ALT was quite high at 81, with the normal cutoff being 29. High sensitivity CRP was nice and low at 0.3, hemoglobin A1C nice and low too at 4.9. So I would really like to know now, panelists, what thoughts and concerns do you have so far?
All right, let's start with Dr. Rahman, please. What are you thinking? It's a lot to digest.
Yeah, I'm wondering, so Dr. Graff, did you see her? Has she already started her fasting at this point, the Nutra?
No, she has to see me before she starts the fast, but she was recently just a couple of weeks off of doing the 5-day water only fast. So this is maybe 2.5 weeks after that.
Yeah, that BUN creatinine ratio does make me wonder, like, if she's still, what's going on with her hydration level, if she's 2 weeks out from fasting. And I can't remember what you said about her body weight. Do we know what her BMI is? I know it was a telehealth visit, but do you have her height and weight and BMI information?
Coming up, and now you're revealing it a little soon. So she did not. So one of the things that was requested in addition to that 3-day diet history was her vital signs, which she did not fill out that form. So yes, we do need to know what that is.
Okay.
So
Are you going to tell us, Dr. Graff?
yeah, but it's coming up in a second. So
Okay. Anything else, Dr. Rahman?
No, not right now.
Okay. Dr. Bricky, your thoughts, please.
Well, clearly, one of her chief complaints of fibrocystic breast, it's commonly related to caffeine, and that makes me wonder if she's having too much caffeine. Sometimes vitamin E, although the studies for use of vitamin E supplements weren't very good, but vitamin E containing foods like nuts, seeds, and spinach can be helpful for that. But the labs, her cholesterol and LDL are still higher than optimal. I don't know. My impression is that we no longer call HDL good cholesterol. It's more neutral. It doesn't really count either way. So the ratio, the HDL, I don't pay much attention to. And again, although her LDL is good by American standards at about 107, I'd still say it'd be good for her to continue to work towards working on that. And the LFTs, of course, the most common cause are either medications. I don't think you mentioned that yet either, whether she's on a statin for that history of cholesterol would be helpful to know. Sometimes NSAIDs or Tylenol can cause elevation of liver function tests, but of course the most common is MASLD, just sort of metabolic associated steatic liver disease, and that's why too I wonder about her BMI, if she's overweight, if she's carrying extra there and putting some of that extra adipose tissue into visceral fat in her liver. That could cause significant concerns. But yeah, I think we're intrigued by her relatively healthy lifestyle and pretty good labs, and looking forward to what you have next for us, Dr. Raff.
Dr. Sunderman, your thoughts, please.
I
just want to
agree
say that
with
the
what
only that was the vitamin D that she wasn't really taking consistently. That's the only thing that she was taking. So no statin. Go ahead.
Okay.
Melissa.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I agree with Dr. Rahman and Dr. Brake, everything that was said. I think that really kind of digging into it's really interesting that she's this single mom. I agree with Dr. Graff, and she has an autistic child that she's raising on her own and works as a full-time as a lawyer, and yet is like, yeah, no, I'm good. There was no stress, and like why she really is kind of like latching on to doing these repeated fasting, and is there like some kind of mechanism of need for control in her life and latching on to this, and I'd want to kind of dig into that deeper. She does have a family history of cancer, but from what we see with she's BRCA negative, and gallbladder, could there be some genetic predisposition? There could be. I agree with what people are detecting in the labs, and with the elevated LFTs. I think once you reveal BMI, that will be, is this masked or when I was years ago, when I worked with eating disorder patients, I would see actually when people were very underweight, when they had prolonged like intentional fasting or rapid weight loss, we would actually see elevated LFTs, and it's almost like the body was trying to conserve and protect the organs. So kind of like a lean NAFLD, so like someone who's very lean but could have non-alcoholic steatosis. So I think that we need to find out more information about what's going on, but definitely very interesting.
Thank you, everybody.
Great, thank you. Okay, proceed,
All
please,
right.
Dr. Graff.
Yeah. So additional information that I gathered after reviewing the labs, she had been drinking 5 to 6 cups of decaf coffee a day and almost no other liquid intake. So we all know that decaf coffee isn't really caffeine free. It's just lower caffeinated. So that might have been part of what was going on with the dehydration issue for her. She had been taking 1,000 milligrams of acetaminophen a few times a day in the week prior to the labs due to the headaches. She said that she would take that twice a day. Maybe once she'd taken it 3 times a day, but she had not been taking excessive amounts. So it's time for a poll. What is your plan at this point? A, approve the patient to start L-Nutra's metabolic program. B, adequately hydrate and avoid acetaminophen and recheck labs in a month before considering her for participation. C, gather additional information, or B and C.
Okay, what do we got?
Okay.
Okay, so Dr. Sunderman, what would you have done?
I picked B and C. I want to get more information. Again, I think it's interesting that she hasn't shared her vitals. She's not sharing her 3-day dietary whatever log. So I think I want to get more information from her before I'm going to consider whether she's eligible or candidate for this L-Nutra program. And then I definitely want her to be able to recheck labs with stopping the acetaminophen to see if these normalize. And we don't know where we're catching her with these LFTs and which way is the trajectory, which way is going. So I chose B and C.
Got it. Dr. Rahman, what would you choose? Comments?
I chose C, gather additional information. I feel like things just aren't fully making sense for me. There are like lots of missing pieces of the puzzle. Like Dr. Sunderman said, we don't have her vital signs. We don't have her 3-day dietary recall. It's also there's just a little red flag in my head about why she wants to do this fasting program at all when she's BRCA negative. She's been told these are just some lumps and bumps, we'll just reevaluate. False positives are so common with mammograms. So I don't know. Something isn't making sense for me here. So I would say I need more information to understand her better.
Okay, thank you for that. Dr. Brakey, your thoughts,
I
please.
agree with the emerging consensus. I picked D, which is B and C, as the same reasons as Melissa. We want to get more info first and make sure she's no contraindications and that she's also a good candidate for this, that it's going to be more likely to do more harm than or more good than harm.
Great. All right, Dr. Graff, proceed, please.
Yeah, so just a review on the exclusion criteria. I wouldn't say that we don't really know, right? So I don't know why she's got transaminitis. Why are her liver enzymes elevated? Does she have active hepatitis B or active hepatitis C? I don't know. So I definitely wouldn't say that things were in a state where I would feel comfortable. And in addition, we can't clear her because we don't know what her BMI is yet. So. The rest of the stuff seems like she passed, but I wouldn't feel comfortable until we got more information. And then, so the vital signs she reported when I told her that I absolutely needed to know that information. Height was 5'0". Weight was 95 pounds, which puts her body mass index at 18.5, and her blood pressure was 94/61. So definitely not a person who's holding extra weight for making those liver functions go high, but again, a bit of a concern. The other thing, I knew that she had just finished a 5-day water-only fasting diet, so I asked her what her weight was prior to going in. And basically, she had regained the weight that she had lost. The lowest that she got when she was doing the completely water fasting diet was like low 90s, and she was back up to 95, which is about what she had been prior to that. So this is really her baseline weight. Okay, so my initial plan, basically I told her she's not currently appropriate for the L-Nutra metabolic program. And I honestly, at that point, I didn't think she would ever be appropriate for the metabolic program, but I'm not going, if I was worried that if I did that, she would just disappear. And she had significant medical issues kind of going on that I wanted to make sure that we followed up on. So we kind of talked about the fact that she's dehydrated, and I want to make sure, like, why is that happening to her? And then she's got these high liver enzymes, the transaminitis. We don't really know why that was. So the plan, so even though she wasn't eligible for the L-Nutra's metabolic program, she did agree to come back and see me for a regular old lifestyle medicine visit through lifestyle telemedicine. So that was great. So we developed a plan, and it was no caffeinated beverages and no more than 2 cups a day of decaffeinated coffee and tea. Just to make sure we're not getting some caffeine effect, even with the decaf stuff. She was to drink at least 2 liters a day of water or naturally caffeine-free tea. Avoid all acetaminophen and continue off all alcohol. And then we're going to reassess her BUN and creatinine ratio and the SGOT and SGPT in 1 month without fasting the morning of the labs to make sure she's well hydrated. And then I was going to see her for a consult separate from the L-Nutra program. I recommend that she start a B12 supplement, 250 micrograms daily or 1,000 micrograms twice a week. To take her vitamin D, and I recommended that she take 2,000 units a day consistently. She lives in New York. She doesn't go outside much during the day. So I reassured her that her cholesterol made her low risk for heart disease and that I wasn't that worried about her cholesterol overall. Maybe some of the other folks here would be more worried about her cholesterol, but I did not think that was kind of one of the big things to be worried about with her. And then I told her that we could consider a fasting mimicking diet in the future for the cancer prevention, but her weight would need to stay in a normal range during the fast, and she would need to regain what she lost prior to the next one. And that would make it really hard for her to do, multiple months in a row, like the L-Nutra program, the metabolic program. So I was thinking, like, if you were going to do it in the future, to consider doing it once every 3 months just to make sure you're not getting excessive amounts of weight loss. And that you would do it outside of the L-Nutra's program, which means you could do the intermittent Prolon, which is a similar product but is done without the medical supervision. So I saw her back a month later, and she reported drinking about 3 cups of decaf coffee a day. So she didn't get down to the 2 that we had requested, but close. She had no significant breast pain or lumpiness for the past 2 weeks. So pretty much we kind of proved that this was caffeine related. She cuts it out, it goes away. When she drinks more, it comes back. So that part was great. She was very happy not to have any breast pain or lumpiness because that was freaking her out. She was drinking about 2 liters of fruit infused water every day, and naturally caffeine-free tea as well, a mixture of those 2 for at least 2 liters. She's taking her B12 and vitamin D pretty consistently. It wasn't great. She was taking that B12, so the bigger dose twice a week, and then she would forget. She probably would do better with taking something daily, but she had the thousands, so that's how she wanted to take it. The BUN creatinine ratio normalized, and as did her AST and her ALT. So that ALT was close to 3 times normal, but was back down into the normal range with avoiding the acetaminophen. So now it's time for another poll. Why might her high ALT and AST normalize after discontinuing the acetaminophen when she wasn't taking more than the recommended maximum of 3,000 a day? Is it was because she had actually been taking more than that? We think she lied about her alcohol intake. Is it because her liver size is a reflection of overall body size and therefore even normal amounts of acetaminophen doses can be toxic in petite women? Is it because fasting, which she did just prior to having blood work drawn, increases acetaminophen levels by reducing glutathione stores, which impair the liver's ability to metabolize the drug, or all of the above are possible explanations?
Okay, interesting. So the mode here, the one that got the most votes is all of the above, but also liver size got a significant number of votes. Dr. Brakey, what are your thoughts?
I picked all of the above just because they are all possible. When you're taking Tylenol and you know how much, especially on a multi-dose, it's certainly possible to get more. It's very common for people to underestimate their alcohol intake for a variety of reasons. Again, I doubt that's the case for her, but it's certainly one possibility. And then liver size and body size do play a role in serum levels. Obviously, if you've 3,000 milligrams a day in this petite person, it's going to be higher levels within the liver, so possible. And then there is an effect for acetaminophen detoxification that can be affected by fasting. So possible. I picked all of the above.
Dr. Rahman, what do you think?
I was leaning towards she'd actually been taking more than 3,000 milligrams a day of acetaminophen.
Okay.
Now I'm forgetting, but I got the sense her ALT was more elevated, so it wasn't due to alcohol, but maybe I'm misremembering that. So that's where I went with it.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Dr. Sunderman, your thoughts?
I went with E, with what Dr. Brakey said, and it looks like she's been selective on what she's been sharing with Dr. Graff, like with not wanting to disclose vital signs, forgetting to do her diet logs. So could she be selective of not wanting to share the whole truth about maybe some of the acetaminophen or the alcohol? So I think these are all plausible answers.
All right. Dr. Graff, how did they do?
Great. Yeah, all of them are possible answers, right? So you don't really know until you kind of ask. But the good news is that it normalized. So what I found interesting was when I was checking, kind of investigating for why this might be high. Initially, I ran into stuff about fasting, with how that strongly that affects acetaminophen levels by reducing the glutathione store. So if you're fasting, you really need to be very, very cautious with taking medications, especially acetaminophen, because you're not going to be able to metabolize it as well. So I did not know that before. So and
What are,
Ish,
sor
go
what are
ahead.
sources of glutathione that people can take?
I don't know that. Do you?
I don't.
I don't know.
Okay.
All right.
Sorry
Yeah.
about that.
So they're all kind of just things that you just kind of think about as possibilities. So
To say, isn't the
um,
supplement NAC and acetylcysteine good for glutathione, optimizing that? NAC? I've seen some people take that to help
I think what
optimize
Dr.
that.
Vicky was asking was what foods were helpful.
Oh, what
Um,
foods? Okay, because
yeah, and
yeah.
I don't really know. Um,
So,
so
So
the
the glutathione is an antioxidant mainly produced in the body, and certain fruits and vegetables contain small amounts, but mostly you want to encourage the production. And certain ones like cruciferous vegetables are especially good for that, from what I remember.
Somebody popped in here in the chat, citrus peel and grapefruit pith. But
Oh,
on the other hand, this person's fasting, right? So
Well, it
that's good
had
to
been
know.
fasting, right? So
Yeah,
it should
yeah.
come back up now that she's not fasting. But so there were a couple of things that kind of came up at the first visit that made me sort of start thinking about, is this an eating disorder, right? Especially when I got her BMI. But I got that right at the end of the visit. We actually had already gone over time. So I was really happy that she came back to see me the second time because I really wanted to discuss that with her. And so that was kind of really at the top of my to-do list for our next visit. And although she didn't disclose that history of the eating disorder in the initial intake, there were some red flags, right? So the red flags for me was that she listed weight control as a reason for wanting to do the metabolic program, despite her BMI being 18.5. The fact that she didn't submit her vitals, right, which included her weight prior to the first visit, and despite us requesting her to fill that out several times. And then at the end, when I told her that she wasn't a candidate for the L-Nutra metabolic program at that time, she replied that she could have just lied about her weight and I would have never known and she could have done the program. That was kind of like one of the final things that she
Yeah.
said at that first visit. Like, yeah, you're just kind of like, oh, there's something there. Like, yes, she could have, but it could be somebody who just really, really wants to do the fasting mimicking diet because she thinks it's going to reduce her cancer risk. So it was something to really kind of investigate, but to do it in a kind way where she wouldn't feel threatened. And she did admit to a history of disordered eating in the past. She had a high of 150 pounds at age 13, where she was all of her 5'0". So she had hit her adult height. That would have been a BMI of 29.3, so not quite obese, but pretty close. She dropped to 80 pounds over the course of the next year by restricting intake, denied binging and purging. She states she was not hospitalized or ever formally treated. Which is a bit shocking to me because she'd lost nearly half her body weight, and yet she never was formally treated for an eating disorder. Her BMI was down to 15.6 at that point. She regained most of that weight during over her high school years. And then she repeated the cycle in college, getting down to her lowest weight, or adult weight of 78 pounds, which is a BMI of 15.2.
Hmm.
She regained some of that weight, but never got close to her highest weight, even when she was pregnant. She states she feels her best now when her weight is in the low 90s, like 92, which puts her body mass index below 18.5. And she does not weigh herself frequently, although she states that weighing is not triggering for her, and she doesn't feel obsessed by doing it or gets upset when she does weigh herself. But she just likes to go by how her body and clothes feel. Current weight, self-reported, so I don't know if it's accurate or not, was 97 pounds, which puts her BMI at 18.9. Her current eating pattern, she denied feeling hungry in the morning, typically skips breakfast and lunch. Mid to late afternoon, she suddenly feels very hungry, but tries to eat healthy by eating a lot of raw, non-starchy vegetables. But then she feels very, very bloated and uncomfortable. So basically, she doesn't like to eat all of her stuff until she's done working because she's too uncomfortable to sit at her desk and work when she eats all of that. She feels best when she's able to get up and walk right after eating, but that's hard with the restrictions of her workday, the winter weather, and the fact that it gets dark early in the evening. So thoughts and recommendations for the patient at this point, and I would also really love Dr. Rahman to speak more about what we know about eating disorders and plant-based diets and vegan diets, because it's not... I learned so much from her at a talk that she gave at the ACLM conference this year, and I know that she's really well versed in that. So,
Dr. Rahman, take it over, please. Take it
Oh,
away.
thank you. Well, first, her food diary is really helpful. We see there are some clear red flags there where she's really hungry, but she's just eating a lot of raw vegetables, and then she's bloated and uncomfortable, really wondering if she's getting enough caloric intake, and this cycle that she's sharing of gaining weight, losing weight, gaining weight, losing weight. That's so typical of disordered eating. And that doesn't mean everyone who has weight fluctuations has disordered eating, but she's going to very extreme weights, very low BMI of 15.9. And it's important for us to appreciate that, binging and purging or anorexia, they often coexist in patients. So patients will often fluctuate from anorexia to binging and purging to back to anorexia. It's all really the same thing. I just like to call it disordered eating because that's the easiest way to understand it. And they're not three different disorders. It's all the same underlying issues. I think the one thing that causes a lot of confusion when we talk about disordered eating is whether disordered eating and plant-based diets are a problem. And I want to explain that there is this huge controversy in the world of disordered eating where about plant-based nutrition. So let me explain where that comes from. It's commonly accepted in disordered eating that severe dietary restriction, whether it's of calories or desired foods, may increase the risk of an eating disorder. So, when we deprive ourselves, when we starve ourselves, or don't give ourselves something we want, we are going to be set up for disordered eating. So that's commonly accepted. But then this has led to the way of thinking that goes like this, which is persons with eating disorders may report following a restrictive diet. For example, they may say they eat a gluten-free or a raw diet or a plant-based diet. And they may say they eat these for health or ethical reasons, but they're actually doing it they're actually just saying that to mask the eating disorder and to minimize their food intake. So they're not really eating this way for health or ethical reasons. They're really eating this way for weight loss. And providers are often taught that when they're working with people with eating disorders, they should really be vigilant of anyone who claims to be following a restricted diet, like plant-based diet, about what are their true motives for doing it. And that behavioral health providers should discourage restrictive diets and encourage consumption of all foods in moderation. And the reason people believe this is that in cohort studies, there has been an association between vegan or vegetarian diets and disordered eating. And so cohort studies do not establish causality, they're just showing an association. But nonetheless, this has led people to conclude that vegan or vegetarian diets contribute to disordered eating because they're restrictive. And it's also led people to believe that people with pre-existing disordered eating may report following a vegan or vegetarian diet just as a socially acceptable way to minimize food intake. And so that's why this controversy exists. So what we really need to do is look at the literature. And when we look at the literature, we see something entirely different. And these research studies have come from UPenn. They've been published in JAMA. They've looked at people in the US, in Brazil. And what they find is that when we look at people following a plant-based diet, their risk of disordered eating is not any higher than those who are not following a plant-based diet. In fact, some studies show the opposite, that people following a plant-based diet have lower risk of disordered eating. And what the research also shows is that the reason for following the plant-based diet is what really matters. So if someone is following it, commonly cited reasons are ethical, environmental, or health reasons. And when people follow a plant-based diet for these reasons, they do not show evidence of disordered eating. And so we really need to appreciate that. And in fact, we see that in some studies, people who were following semi-vegetarian diet that may have included some forms of animal products were actually at higher risk. And the bottom line is that the data that was used to come to these conclusions that plant-based diets lead to disordered eating was really based on poor quality data. where there was a lot of conflation. It wasn't very clear about cause and effect, and there were methodological flaws with the studies. But when we look at studies that are well done, we do not see that association. In fact, we start to see an opposite pattern.
Interesting. Wow. Thank you for that. So what are your thoughts on what would you recommend for this patient at this point?
I think, I think it's clear this patient has disordered eating. It's also a very difficult topic. I often will just ask patients, is there any history of binging or purging, or emotional eating? And they're often happy to just say yes because someone is finally asking and nobody asks and they just keep it to themselves. In this patient who's denying a history of binging and purging, she may not say there's emotional eating. But I'm suspecting there is some because I'm trying to understand if all she's eating is some raw vegetables, why there would be any concern about weight gain at all. But clearly there's a profound concern about it. So I might ask her, is there any history of emotional eating, which often feels more gentle than saying binging or purging. And then I would just, there are screening tests that can be done in primary care to screen patients. And then it may be helpful to say, given your history, maybe it's worthwhile to talk a little bit more about what food is like for you, what your experience with food has been like, and how that's impacting you. And kind of proceed very gently because I think what you said earlier, Dr. Graff, is this is someone who may just kind of check out and not come back. And then we might lose that opportunity. But we need to be gentle with her and probe a little bit and kind of start opening that door a little bit. And she may just hopefully walk through it.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Dr. Sunderman, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so interesting, Dr. Rahman. Thank you for sharing all of that. And, and when you said just that people view this as being a restrictive diet and therefore it can lead to eating disorders, we could say that anything about a keto diet, about a carnivore diet, that is equally restrictive, right? So to single out vegan, plant-based as being the only restrictive type diet when we know it's a very abundant dietary pattern, right? There's so many more plants than there are animal products. I think it's also very interesting looking at her history. Dr. Graff, I think you said that she's been whole food plant-based for maybe 3-4 years. How long has she been?
3 years.
So, yeah, so her weight fluctuations started long before she transitioned to whole food plant-based. And that is a very drastic weight loss that she had when she was 13 to 14, then regained some weight and then had a second time where she went down. So I think, again, being very, very gentle, but bringing this up, and maybe it could be under the auspice of, you say you're not stressed, but in hearing, what you have on your plate, no pun intended, there's a lot on your plate of being a single mom and being a full-time lawyer and raising, an autistic child. And this is your main source of love. And could we maybe explore, you mentioned you had this rapid weight fluctuation starting when you were a teenager. Like, do you remember kind of what was something going on at that time? Did something trigger that? And then again, you had this happen again in college. Did something trigger that? And just trying to, in my experience, working with a therapist that was, had experience working with disordered eating is critical, right? So, and then also dietitians that have experience with disordered eating, critical as well. So I think in maybe connecting her with like a multidisciplinary team, if she's open to that, again, being very gentle about maybe not focusing on the disordered eating, but about support for her for things that she is trying to manage right now. And I think that looking at disordered eating and, we ask questions about, does this affect, maybe your social life? Do you avoid doing things that maybe you would have to, not that you would have to have steak or something like that, but is this really affecting your daily life, your routines? I think if her true reason for wanting to do L-Nutra was to reduce her cancer risk. We know in lifestyle medicine there are so many other modalities to minimize and mitigate cancer risk of exercise and her sleep and cutting out alcohol and getting antioxidants and phytonutrients. So really emphasizing like we can shift that lever by reducing your risk with all of these other modalities and not having to focus on just fasting mimicking diet. So that's my that's all.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Sunderman. Dr. Brakey, quickly, what do you got?
Well, Dr. Graff, great case. She's fortunate to have you. You know, I think she expected just some doctor to come on and rubber stamp her approval for this, and you really kind of got into the real reasons that she was asking this. And again, it seems like sort of the cancer prevention was a smokescreen for wanting to be on this kind of program to continue to intermittently fast. And there are benefits to that, but I think she needs a little education too. Is that yes, fasting has been shown to enhance autophagy and decrease either recurrence or certain cancer risk. But it turns out it's not just the total calorie or all food, it's the protein. And it's not just any protein, it's the methionine and cysteine that's very heavy in animal proteins. So you can get the same benefits from fasting for cancer prevention by just eliminating the high animal protein foods, which are high in methionine, cysteine, the sulfur-containing amino acids, and as such, the longevity and other benefits as well. Dr. Greger has some great discussion on that and how not to age. Secondly, on the fasting mimicking diets, I agree with Dr. Greger and how not to diet. He has a little statement here. The whole diet appears to be some dehydrated soups, mushrooms, tomato, herbal teas, energy bars, DHA supplement, multivitamin dusted with vegetable. But why spend $50 a day on a few processed snacks when you could instead eat a few hundred calories a day of real vegetables? So I don't know. I think she can hopefully understand that there are other ways to gain her goals of maintaining appropriate weight, of preventing cancer through a healthy, whole food, plant-based diet. And sure, intermittent or kind of eating or time-restricted eating can be a component of that, but she doesn't need this to do that. And you brought her along so that she didn't get scared away by your denial of the program to come back and learn more and give her the benefits of what she can gain from a multidisciplinary, all 6 pillars approach to healthy eating along the lines of what we all teach through ACLM. So thank you. Great case with a lot of different facets.
Well, thank you for that wisdom from all 3 of our panelists. And Dr. Graff, proceed, please.
Okay. So my plan after her second visit, one of the big things was that she's just really not aware of her hunger, right? So I normally tell patients never let yourself get more than a 7 out of 10 on the hunger scale, but she doesn't pay any attention until it hits her at an 8 or a 9. So for her, having regularly scheduled food intake was going to be important. She had told me that she had previously done barley max. It's a drink that she would do first thing in the morning. Well, it wouldn't be first thing, but it would be earlier in the day. And she tolerated that fine. It didn't make her gassy or bloated, and she liked it. So I'm like, okay, great. Let's do that. Throw some girl and flax seeds in it. Get that in between 9 and 10 a.m. And then to do a vegetable-based soup for lunch. Having it be a significant amount, a couple of cups, and to try to get that in between 12 and 1. Then another one of my kind of rules is making sure that your meals have a whole grain, a bean, or a potato, right? So that you're full and satisfied, that you're turning off both the stretch receptor and the calorie density receptors. So we're not going to do that for the barley max for the morning because I don't think I'll ever get the woman to eat oatmeal first thing in the morning. She was just not buying that one. But to make sure that she's got something hearty. So the soup for lunch was vegetable-based, but it would have a whole grain, a bean, or a potato in it, and her dinners would too. I asked her to do no more than 50% of her calories from raw vegetables, thinking that a lot of her gas and bloating kind of feeling that was making her super uncomfortable and avoid eating most of the day was really coming from the fact that she's eating all this raw stuff. So making sure that the raw calories were later and that it was cooked stuff at lunchtime and limiting how much that was. And then consider doing the raw veggies that she was eating with hummus, trying to increase that calorie density a little bit and to decrease her overall volume of raw foods. And then we also talked about the batch baking sweet potatoes to use as a snack if she needed something in the afternoon before dinner to kind of prevent from getting overly hungry, and that she could also substitute fruit for the baked potatoes, but it's kind of like the little tricks that I normally use. We had a frank discussion about pluses and minuses of a fasting mimicking diet. She does have this awful family history, but she's got this personal history of disordered eating. And if we do a fasting mimicking diet and it's further causing worsening of the disordered eating, that's not going to be a win. We did also have some discussion about exercise being a really good cancer reducing thing too. But again, then I'm worried about that she's going to focus on the exercise portion of, the weight loss part of it. So I didn't push that super hard. We kind of just mentioned that in passing. Basically, the big thing out of the second visit was that she was in agreement to reorient her goal from her initial goals of wanting to reduce her risk of cancer and to have weight maintenance, to develop an overall eating plan that would allow her to maintain a healthy weight and to feel good and not feel bloated and uncomfortable. So that was huge, that we got her to shift. And again, we didn't put the fasting mimicking diet cycles completely off the table, but we continue to hold for now. We could reconsider them if once the above is good, her weight is good, she's feeling really good. If we can get that all okay, and she wants to try the fasting mimicking diet cycles, if she could keep her weight up in between and it wouldn't trigger more of the disordered eating, we could consider it again. But for now, it's on hold. And then I just saw her last week for her third visit, and she did not submit her vital signs or a 3-day diet record as I had requested her to do. She states she thinks she's the same weight, around 97 pounds, but by how her clothes fit, but she didn't actually weigh herself. She apologized that she's been extremely busy with work, admits to being a type A personality and a people pleaser, states that she hasn't had a lot of time to focus on the recommendations from the last visit. That said, she did start the Barley Max daily between 9 and 10. That's working great. She's eating about 3 cups of a plant-based soup with a whole grain, a bean or potato in it every day. It's not always by 1 o'clock, but it's always before 2 p.m., and she's never letting herself get overly hungry, so that's working out great. She's using the batch baked sweet potatoes for snacks. Sometimes she does fruit, but she really likes the baked potatoes, so that's working really well. She reports about 50% less gas and bloating, was having no trouble with eating and then sitting down and getting her work done. So that was good. So it was funny because she said she didn't have a lot of time to do it. And then she did almost everything that was on the list. So I did inquire about adding some nut butter into her diet to help with calorie intake. And she stated that she avoids having nuts and nut butters in the house because they are a trigger. So she had denied binge and eating and purging, but she then admitted that they're a trigger and she's afraid she'll overeat them. And then after we talked about that, she relates that her daughter's very allergic to most nuts, and that's another reason why she doesn't want to have them in the house. So it kind of like she kind of backtracked. I think she was a little bit uncomfortable that she had revealed that. I'm not exactly positive about that, but the first thing she said was that they're a trigger and she's afraid she'll overeat them. She does admit to more work stress because she said she'd been too busy to kind of do this stuff, and she recognizes that she doesn't have a good stress management plan except for working longer to get the work done. So the plan after the third visit basically congratulated her on how much of the plan she has been able to enact, which was at least 80%, despite how busy she's been. Reinforce how much progress she's made on her new goals. She's following a consistent, healthy eating plan. Her weight is stable. It's in a normal range, although barely. And her bloating has reduced considerably. And she was in agreement that working on stress should really be the next priority. And I gave her a couple of things to try. She was agreeable to trial a 10-minute guided meditation in the morning after getting her daughter off to school before starting into work. I really love Dermot Whalen's morning meditation. It's 10 minutes long, and it's he's got an Irish accent, and he's funny. So I really enjoy him. She actually said she really liked English and Irish accents. So she thought she would like him, and so I also recommended maybe checking out the Honest Guys on YouTube. There's 2 guys and they're British, so they've got British accents. They're longer guided meditations, but I told her if she had a stressful day and needed to recoup, they basically will do, a walk along the beach or a walk to a waterfall. Takes you on a nice guided meditation. And for her, I think having a guided meditation where her brain is like being told a story will work much better than trying to focus on your breath. We also, I brought this up because in Dermot Whalen's meditation list, one of them is a body scan. And body scans can be triggering for some folks who have body dysmorphic issues if they have any kind of disordered eating. So I actually talked to her about it. In some ways, it might be helpful to her because she doesn't recognize like how stressed she was. She doesn't realize, she doesn't really notice how tense she is until it's kind of pretty far along. And doing a body scan might help her make her more sensitive to that, kind of being more aware of what's going on with her physically. But it also might make her focus more on her weight and can be triggering for eating disorder. So we talked about that and kind of just said, if she wants to try it, she can, but just to be aware of that. And then I've got a recheck scheduled with her for 6 weeks, and she was agreeable to come back. I've made her an appointment every time before she leaves. She's got an appointment for the next time, so she'll have to cancel it to avoid me. So I'm hoping that she'll stick with me. And that's all I've got for tonight, except for any last thoughts from our panelists.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Graff. Dr. Rahman, any closing thoughts?
I would also recommend some books, some self-help books for her to look at. There's a great one from the group at Stanford that we've used in our programs. I can share that name with people, and it's because it's really a vicious cycle of some trigger causing an unhealthy relationship with food that leads to poor health or weight outcomes, and that leads to more stress, and they just keep spiraling. And so just understanding their cycle and how to break it with other coping strategies can be extremely helpful.
Love that book. Thank you.
What are those books? I'm sorry.
I actually have it's one is called, I think probably a good one is the DBT solution for emotional eating. I'll pop it in the chat. DBT is dialectical behavior therapy. It's a form of cognitive behavior therapy, which we're all familiar with. The DBT, and it's by Dr. Safer at Stanford. DBT, I'm just reading the name, DBT Solution for Emotional Eating.
Nice.
They can get it from Amazon, and it's really wonderful.
Okay.
Yeah, I used to recommend My Life with Ed. Jenny Schulman, I think it was. And she has two. First one was My Life with Ed, eating disorder, and then came up with a second one, similar name. Yeah, do you have anything more to say, Dr. Rahman? I don't want to cut you off.
No, I think with this patient, I would be a little bit concerned with her. She seems like on the eating disorder spectrum, she tends to lean more towards anorexia. Just with those very low BMIs she's reached, and even now she's really trying to limit her food intake, even though her BMI is fairly low. So it might be a great idea depending on how the conversation flows, if it makes sense, to recommend maybe she should consider seeing a therapist or a psychiatrist, just because some of these patients who tend to lean towards anorexia, it's so much more challenging than those that are more on the binging or purging spectrum.
Interesting. Dr. Breaky, any thoughts?
Once again, great case. Thank you, Dr. Graff. I think she's, we want to kind of see what are the levers that will help inspire her to continue self-care. And clearly, she wants to be able to work hard. She wants to take care of her daughter who needs her. And as with autism, that could be long-term. So by bringing her back, not making her wrong for having a eating disorder, you've really set the stage to really help to see where and how higher calorie density foods like the sweet potatoes, like brown rice, like the foods that will give her some legumes and calorie density, the protein, the nourishment she needs in a healthy manner, that also happens to be high in fiber for her microbiome and cancer protective, can fit in with a healthy lifestyle and help her to feel like, wow, I'm getting it all. And that future looks brighter as a result. So thank you.
Yeah, I love that. Well, listen, we really have to.
Okay, just two quick things.
Oh,
One,
never mind. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Oh, Uh, I blew it. I just want to say, great case, Dr. Graff. And nowadays, that people can learn so much online about programs that are out there or fixes. I think that thank goodness she got you, and you took such an ethical approach to this. And rather than just saying, okay, she signed up for our program, we'll just put her through, you cared for the patient, the individual patient. So great job, great kudos. I just do want to say just one thing, is that at Corewell Health, where I'm the medical director, we run shared medical appointments. We do have a Fasting for Health shared medical appointment that we utilize Prolon. And I was in office all day today. I had 2 patients that I saw who have gone through that program, and whether it's anecdotal, whether it's one-offs, one woman has done 3 of normal body habitus, has done 3 cycles of Prolon. She's in her early 50s, endometriosis all of her life. Her endometriosis symptoms are virtually like non-existent, and she credits that to Prolon. And then the other case was a woman in her mid-30s, ulcerative colitis, who has been able to get off of one of her biologics by she's done 3 cycles of FMD. So not to say that this fixes everything. I think the literature is super exciting or interesting that Walter Longo is really looking at. And just he came out with his newer book about cancer and FMD. And, it could be an adjunct along with chemotherapy. So I think that it's going to be interesting to see the research as it comes forward.
Yeah, that's a really fascinating thing about using it for cancer treatment along with chemotherapy.
Yeah.
Basically, if you can get it into that, your normal cells are shut down when you get chemo. Chemo will then differentially attack the cancerous cells, which can't put themselves in shutdown mode, and your normal cells will be less bothered by the chemotherapy because they're not actively dividing. So a lot of theoretical stuff with it, but not recommended. It's not ready for prime time. So
Right.
basically, people are told not to do it unless you're actually in a study and you have your oncologist approval.
Yeah.
I just want to point out that something that Dr. Brakey said already. We're not promoting a commercial product here. This is a CME program. That it's pretty easy we could offer people just recipes for what it is that Prolon or the FMD offers. So I almost feel like we ought to do another program on that, how to make your own FMD product. Because it's just almost no food, right?
Can I just add one thing quickly?
Sure.
Thank you so much for this case, Dr. Graff, and for your vigilance with her, because one thing is we as primary care providers are the ones that are going to be the initial providers that people with disordered eating see, and they don't come with a diagnosis ready for us saying, I have disordered eating, and often we're the ones who are going to screen them and figure it out, and we need to point them in the right direction. So kudos to you. Your patient's lucky to have you for spotting that and helping her.
Agreed. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Graff. Thanks for that comment, Dr. Rahman. Really appreciate that. Okay, Melissa, can I stop now? We're good. We're good.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, this is great. Thank you all for coming. Again, check your emails for those links. And once again, thank you to Dr. Rahman for being our guest panelist from the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, and Dr. Graff, who did the heavy lifting tonight, and our usual and regular amazing panelists, Dr. Sunderman and Dr. Brakey. Good night, everybody, and thank you, Jane, for the background.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Chad. Yay.
Yeah, good to see you all.